What did you think of his performance in the Tommy Fury fight?
He's a raw novice. I'm a British level heavyweight. He wouldn't last 2 minutes with me.
If we want to be rid of this pest, as in Jake Paul, I'd say, AJ, you've got to torment him. A cat with a mouse. Hit him, hurt him. So each time he goes back to the corner, he wants to quit.
Honestly, it's up there, one of the most ridiculous things I've ever known in sport.
The Anthony Joshua and Jake Paul fight. I'm going to jump straight into it and ask you, do you think it's a dangerous fight?
As far as the contest goes, I think it's a bit pointless. But dangerous, I'm not too sure. I hope Joshua goes over the other side of the ring, hits him, puts him over and gets back up at the count of 10. We've got a guy that's naturally a big light heavyweight. That's where he started his pro career at. About one of the best heavyweights of the last 15 years. It seems a bit pointless. But when I look at it for what it is, if someone offered me the money that he's getting to fight someone that many levels below me, I'd be a fool to say no. So I get it, but as a boxing person, I wouldn't say I really like it, but I understand why it's happening.
Do you think the timing of it though, because when it comes to these sorts of fights, even though it is a sanctioned professional fight, I view it more like a kind of exhibition sort of fight. People normally take those when their career is done or they're finished, but AJ's still talking about wanting to be heavyweight world champion again. So should he be taking it now, or should this be something that he should entertain later on in his career?
I don't think there's ever a right time to turn down an 8-figure payday. That's all I would say. I don't particularly like the fight, but I wouldn't turn down a 6-figure payday. Never mind an 8-figure one, so I understand it.
Going back to that like danger side of things, we were talking about this last time with Francis Ngannou, looking at what AJ did to Francis Ngannou. He was obviously UFC heavyweight world champion and he's an absolute unit of a man. He couldn't take the punishment that AJ gave him, so would it not be concerning for for Jake Paul to take one of those shots?
I know how boxing works, and I've been doing it a long time, and it's dangerous for everybody. It's a dangerous sport, of course. And I'm a pessimistic guy, really, quite negative in lots of ways. But I just think Joshua will hit him. And I don't think Jake Paul can stand up to it, but I don't think he won't stand up to enough.
I think we've looked and we've seen the sparring partners that Jake Paul's used. And people, there's a bit of a hysteria around it because of the sparring partners like Lawrence Okoli and Co. that have been in there with him. And Dave, you and I both know if you've got a sparring partner, your sparring partner's job is to mimic or to put it on you as much as possible, to put you in much of a real fight condition than there is close to the fight. I don't believe Okoli, I don't believe any of the other 2 or 3 sparring partners that he's had have put him under that kind of pressure. Because if they did, Okoli's number 1 with the WBC or WBA. If they did, he wouldn't be fighting. So I think they'll have gone there to help him measure the size, measure the pace, measure the weight. But I think in reality, they'd have actually had to take it easy with him because the levels are, and even if it might sound disrespectful, but it's true, he's a British domestic level fighter going in with a world-class fighter. If AJ's going to become world champion or not, makes no difference. AJ compared to Jake Paul is a world-class fighter, which makes it a dangerous fight.
But then do you not think that negatively impacts Jake Paul? Because if you're in training and if you're in sparring and you know that someone's kind of taken it a bit easy on you, going into the fight, it's almost like, well, I wasn't really tested against these guys and AJ is perceived as being much better.
Well, sometimes you get people that will tell you something that's not true. Sometimes, I remember sparring with a guy, Fabrice Teoso, he was a world champion. I was his sparring partner, getting paid £100 a day. And he was a world champion, so his job was to beat me up, and my job was to try and beat him up or survive. And it was me beating him up every day to the point where Darky Smith, his trainer, when I went to the corner to get a sip of water, he said, "Take it easy and ease off from him, because he's fighting." So and then when we'd finished sparring, Darky Smith, the trainer, said, "Tell him you've injured your hand, you can't spar tomorrow." I'm like, "Why?" He said, "Because he's fighting, you're going to beat him up, you're going to do his head in." Now these sparring partners that have been sparring with Jake Paul are not going to risk doing that. They're getting paid to do a job. They're getting paid, so they're not going to get the sack. They're going to think, "I'll just do enough to make him feel good." They won't go in there to think, "I'm going to get the sack." They won't do it.
Have you seen any of Jake's training clips that he's put out? What do you make of him technically as a boxer?
I don't really watch him, to be honest. I watched him watch Tommy Fury. I watched. That's the only full fight I've ever watched. Actually, I've watched clips of him.
What did you think of his performance in the Tommy Fury fight?
He's a raw novice. I'm a British level heavyweight. He wouldn't last 2 minutes with me, from what I've seen. Wouldn't last 2 minutes with me. And Anthony Joshua's 10 levels above me, so.
Someone put that to AJ at the presser. They said it was actually, they were talking about Fraser Clark and Jamie TKV, and they said to AJ, do you think Jake Paul would beat either of those guys? And he basically said no. So do you think that kind of shows where he views Jake Paul in this fight?
Fraser Clark and TKV are good fighters, very good fighters. One's got an Olympic bronze medal, the other one's got a British title. They're good fighters, you know. We're not, them two and myself, we're not world-class fighters. We're a bit below that level, of course. But Jake Paul, he's had a couple of proper professional fights with people around the same age that are still active, you know. So, and what we've seen in them fights, I'm not sure he'd win an area title, to be honest. I don't think he would. I'm not sure he would, to be honest. Would Tommy Fury win an area title? I'm not sure he would, so.
Do you think then AJ has to go in there and get rid of him within a round?
One round. It has to be one round. If he takes more than one round, I'd be disappointed.
I'd beg to differ. I think AJ, for AJ to, it's expected. For everything AJ's achieved, everything he's done, you'd expect him to do that. And Jake Paul will still come out with these outlandish, you know, I'm going to box Canelo, I'm going back to A, B or C. Now for the world of boxing, if we want to be rid of this pest, as in Jake Paul, my advice, if I was in AJ's team, I'd say, AJ, you've got to torment him. Because if he torments him like a cat with a mouse, hit him, hurt him. Don't finish him, hit him, hurt him. So each time he goes back to the corner, he wants to quit. He wants out, he's thinking, oh my God, I've got to go out to this again. If he torments him and tortures him in the fight, then it's not just a physical assault he's done on Jake Paul, it's a mental assault as well. Because fighters, if they quit, it takes you a long time to get over that. So if Jake Paul's got in there and he seriously thinks in his head, he must do to take this fight, that he could beat Anthony Joshua, I'd be insulted if I was AJ. I'd be really insulted, so I thought, all right, then I'm going to show you. I'm not going to knock you out, I'm going to beat you up and make you last to the last minute of the last round, then knock you out. That's if you don't give up on yourself. That's what I would advise AJ to do. Because anything less than AJ knocking him out within one round, AJ's going to get criticised. If Jake Paul has 30 seconds of success, AJ's going to get criticised. If he lands one shot, AJ's going to get criticised. So AJ needs to make sure he's in a situation where the only thing he wins is a lot of money and the expectation. Everything else, they're going to pick holes in his performance.
You said there about the fact that Jake Paul is convinced he's going to win this fight. What do you think he's seeing or viewing that potentially we aren't seeing? Because he's dead set on the fact that it just takes one shot. If he can land,
yeah, everybody can fight when they sit on TV. It's like going to watch a Rocky movie, and everybody comes out the cinema and thinks, "Oh, Rocky shadowboxing, I can do this." It's great, and then all of a sudden, when you're in a real fight, you think, oh my God, I don't like this. There's many times we've been out of the gym and seen newcomers come in, street thugs come in thinking I can do this. And you clip them back, you're not even trying hard. They never come back again. It's a reality check. So Jake Paul he's created an ecosystem where everybody and everything depends on him. So nobody's going to take away what he's bringing to the table because they're all getting fed off him. So now he's going to have a reality check because AJ doesn't need him. He doesn't need, you know, AJ's got his own ecosystem that he's got to take care of. So he can't dance Jake Paul's dance because if he does, he affects his own brand.
Yeah. Do you think though, at the moment people talk about AJ and obviously physically he's in shape, he's always in shape, but people question his mentality at the moment. Do you think Jake almost thinks that this is a good time to fight AJ because of that, because of his mental side?
If Jake Paul actually believes he can beat Anthony Joshua, then I worry for him, really. I'm not bothered if Anthony Joshua could box him in 10 years' time and still beat him. He's Olympic gold medalist, heavyweight champion of the world. He's one of the most dangerous men in the world. If Jake Paul honestly believed he's going to beat Anthony Joshua, I've got no words. It's difficult for me to talk about it because I just think it's so ridiculous. I've never seen anything so ridiculous in all my life. Honestly, it's up there, one of the most ridiculous things I've ever known in sport.
This isn't about Jake Paul, it's about AJ. Because AJ, everybody's going to be watching AJ. Because we've seen him mentally be fragile in situations when you think, oh, he's done it again. You know, he's left his tools in the dressing room again. You know, he's not concentrated again. He performed like a novice against Danny Dubois. He underestimated a little fat Mexican that thought this would be easy. You know, so in his head, he's made some fundamental mistake. The age he's at now, that all should be written off. So everybody's going to be watching AJ to see if he stays on point, stays professional. Do not give this man any respect and treat him like you would treat any other adversary that you're in the ring with. Because if he does that, if he does anything else, then Jake Paul may have a chance of at least landing with a shot. And landing with a shot, he's got to win. Just landing with a shot, AJ needs to torment the life out of him and show him the difference in class.
One of the big talking points from this fight is whether people believe it's scripted or not. We actually spoke to Deontay Wilder, and this is what he had to say.
I think those fights are scripted. You know what I mean? You know, that's just my strong opinion. It could be what it is and what we see and what we get. But I really think it's scripted, you know, and I'm even more thinking it with this fight now, because now you're really dealing with somebody that's, you know, active, you know, that was a former champion, that's still going. You know what I mean? He's a real boxer. Now, this ain't nothing like before. We had the Tyson fight, of course, but, you know, I really looked at it all like, that's a fun one right there. You know what I mean? That's a real fun one. You got a legend in there and stuff like that. You know, that's a good one, you know. But this is an active fighter, you know, everybody been wanting to see. And I don't know but one person would do what Jake is doing. And that's it. And I'm talking about the weight difference. For him being, well, like I said, 215 and Joshua being 250, yeah. I don't know that there was difference. I don't know no other person that have done that but me that fight that. I fight guys 20, 30, 40, 50 pounds heavier than me. You know what I mean?
But if it's not scripted, then do you think it's dangerous?
It's dangerous no matter what.
What do you think about the fact that he thinks it is scripted?
I hope it's not. I won't watch it live. I'm intrigued by it the same way I'd be intrigued by going to the circus maybe. You know, to go watch something utterly ridiculous. Now, I've not been a world-class fighter, never have been. But since I walked in the gym, that first day I walked into Brendan's gym, I've loved boxing, and over time I've appreciated levels in the sport, and you cannot have one of the best heavyweights of a generation boxing a guy who's been doing it 5 years, who's naturally much smaller. It's such a mad fight, like, it's hard for me to even talk about it because I think it's so ridiculous.
Do you think Anthony Joshua can go on and win a world title again?
Depends who's about. Depends who holds the titles. If it's Tom has him, or Usyk still has hold of him, Caballel, probably not. But he's so marketable and such a big name, he's always going to be given the best opportunity to win one. But I think if them guys are about and have the titles, I'd probably edge towards saying no.
We had this debate last time about whether if you fought Fabio Wardley, would he win that fight?
Interesting, very interesting. I've written off Fabio Wardley every time, probably like the last 12 fights. Even when he boxed for the English title, boxed Nick Webb and my friend Simon Vallier, I thought, you can't beat them. You know, then moving on further forward to Hooney and Parker, I thought, well, he can't beat them, and he has, so you could never write him off. Could I see him beating an Olympic gold medalist and a fighter like Joshua? I would say no, but the role he's on, it's hard to write him off, but I don't know. Anthony Joshua's not been active at the minute, so at the minute I'd favour Wardley, but if Joshua gets a bit of activity, looks the part, maybe.
And AJ's at a point in his career where he's up against these young guns, and because he's up against these young guns that are hungry, they've got an appetite, they've got a want, they've got a desire, that makes it more dangerous for him. His last fight was against Danny Dubois. He's been out of the ring far too long to tell me he's hungry enough to want to really and truly believe he can be world champion again. Of course, you've got to say that to yourself, otherwise there's no point in doing it. You've got to put that in your head. Some fighters' aim might be to be British champion, European, Commonwealth. So you've got to give yourself a aim, because if you're just you know, treading water in no man's land, then you think, what is the point in this? So he's a mercenary, he's just in it for the money. So do I think he really believes he can be world champion again? No, I don't. He's got to kid himself and tell himself that. Do I think he can be? I don't. Do I think that it's a dangerous fight for him? Yeah, because everything's about AJ. If he steps a foot wrong oh my goodness, he can't do this, he's done. It's about AJ. Nobody expects Jake Paul to win apart from Jake Paul. I bet his own dad doesn't even expect him to win. So if anybody says, yeah, no, Jake Paul's going to do it, they're gamblers. They're hustlers. They're just trying to be smart after the event. Nobody believes he's going to win. So for AJ, this is about AJ, how he deals with it. He's got to stay focused, on point, respect Jake Paul as though he's on the same level as him, and then it'll be an easy night for him. If he doesn't respect him, and he gets hit and he smiles to the camera like, nah, that didn't hurt. You remember when he did it with Dubois? We've got no problem. Because then it's not, he needs a good shake to say, what are you doing? This is professional, get on with the job. He's not your mate, and everybody saw you got hit. Get on with the job. I remember when he did it with Dubois, and he smiled like, nah, and his legs are gone. He's trying to stand out. He cannot afford.
He was even saying in the corner, wasn't he? He was saying, like, it's rubbish.
Yeah, that's something. If you go into a fight with that mentality, it's hard to change your game plan mid-fight. You've got to go into a fight with a mentality to think, you know what, you have come to mock me, to belittle me, to undermine me, to derail my career. And he's got to go in there with a spiteful mentality. That's how he's got to look at it.
With that Daniel Dubois fight, so when I spoke to Eddie, he was saying that AJ took that quite badly, and that he was, distraught about the result and everything like that. Mentally, how do you think you overcome something like that and that loss to Daniel Dubois? Do you think that will play on him now for a while?
I'm not sure. I'm a different character. I've lost 8 times. I've never lost any sleep on any occasion. That's what separates. Obviously, you're a world champion, Johnny. You've got a different mentality to me. I don't have the same mentality as world champions, which is probably why I've never been a champion. But I've never been knocked out either, so it's hard for me to even come at it from that angle as well. But I'm sure it'll hurt him, But I think you're probably better qualified to answer that. My mentality is completely different. All my life I've just been scrapping, win or lose. I just scrap again, I'm different. I come out boxing from a different angle. I'm not like the rest of them.
AJ he'll never get over it. The embarrassment of it, he'll never get over it, because he even vocalised it in the corner, as you've just said. He'll never get over it, so he's got to get past it. How will he get past it? The first thing I would have done if I was AJ, I'd say I want a rematch. That's the guy I want to fight next. Remember when Lennox Lewis got knocked out against, I think it was Hasim Rahman? He was drunk in the ring. Emmanuel Stewart's trying to hold him up. He said, I want a rematch. We were in the ring. There wasn't and even though the fight might not take place straight away, he was demanding that fight came out of his mouth. It wasn't left to his promoter or his trainer to try and talk on his behalf. It was down to him. That's the only way AJ gets over it. Because in his head, it was quite clear he didn't respect the man that was in front of him. And in his head, he's better than the man that was in front of him. Now he's got to accept he isn't. And if you've been a champion of the world and you really believe you're the best in the world, then all of a sudden you're not. It's hard to live with. Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury, these guys really believed they were the best heavyweight in the world at some point. And they're going to struggle with that for a good few years. They'll accept the fact that time it catches up to everybody. And right now they're not the best fight in the world.
But do you think the reason why he's not taking that Daniel Dubois rematch is because he's trying to protect the fight with Tyson Fury in September?
I think Daniel hasn't got the world title anymore, so...
But I think it's more than world title, that specific fight. I think almost just, like you said, righting that wrong of he feels like he didn't perform and he's better than Daniel Dubois. I think he fight him without the world title.
I find it difficult to discuss such things. I've never been a rich man, and I've never been a champion either, so my thinking is totally different to all of them people. So... the only thing I ever do with boxing, I fight whoever, for whatever, wherever. I'm a different person. I don't come out with a business mind or thinking good or bad. So with the Dubois fight, he hasn't got his world title anymore. So I don't think he cares about Daniel Dubois.
And to put all his eggs in one basket on the possibility of a fight with Tyson Fury, he's done that already. He's been there. I don't know the reason why this fight hasn't happened yet. Do I put it down to the fighters? I don't. I put it down to the management. I put it down to Eddie. I put it down to Frank, because everybody really wants to keep the golden goose. Because if you're a fighting man, you want to fight anybody like Dave. You just want to fight. So I'm quite sure the fighters want to fight each other. I remember Carl Froch wanted to fight Chavez Jr. in Las Vegas, and Barry Hearn said, "No, you're going to box George Groves at Wembley." And he's like, "Why am I boxing him? He's useless. I'm not fighting him." And he's like, no, I'm not doing that. And his aim was that there. So it's the business side and the boxer side. So Carl wanted to fight Chavez, but you see which one was the best decision in the end, him fighting George Groves. So sometimes the promoters and the managers are the ones that might make unpopular decisions, but unfortunately it's the fighters that have to take the flak for it.
Dave, why do you fight? If it's not money, if it's not titles, if it's not that route?
I don't know, it's a weird one, isn't it? I don't even know. I never really was in love with boxing, really. I went to Brandon's gym at 16. I was a very shy kid, very quiet. I just fell in love with, not the boxing, again, John Keaton. Yeah. It was John Keaton, actually. I fell in love with John Keaton. He was a British champion, and I didn't have any friends. I left school. I thought I'm going to be a boxer now. My dad was a pro, and it wasn't the boxing, it was the family element of it. I used to go everywhere with Bren. I'd be going all over the place, and it was like I had a funny relationship with my dad, really. So like Brendan became that figure in my life. I'd turn up at Wincomac at 9 in the morning. I wouldn't leave till 6 p.m, 7 p.m. John was really good to me, and I fell in love with the whole dynamic of having a family through the boxing, and I started having fights and started winning things and championships, and before you know it, and every time I would fight amateur or pro, I'd be in the changing room thinking, why am I even here? Because physically, I could fight a very strong and tough man and whatever else, but mentally, I'd always be thinking like, why am I even here? Like, yeah, every time, like an imposter almost. Like, physically I can do it, I can fight, but mentally, I'm not a fighter really. Do you know what I mean? It's boxing, it's a sport, so it's different, but I'm not really that way inclined, really.
I think Dave was there when at the back of the mic, and I think I'd retired at the time, and I can remember seeing him go in there as a 16-year-old. He was a big lump that just wanted to have a tear-up. And John Buster Keaton, the guy that he admires, I admire him as well, same mentality, just wants to fight. And John, I'm quite sure, is just like you. It was easier for him to stand there and have a toe-to-toe than try and box technically, thinking I just want to get my head down and get stuck in. So, and it was just it was nice to see him grow. Yeah. So and I've always known him from a young. Nice to see him grow. I'm like, the kid's just tough. There was some proper hard men in that gym, and he stuck it out, and he outlasted them all. And it got to a point where a couple of them had the opportunity to fight him. I think they'd left or he'd left, and they said, "No, I'm not fighting Dave." So I saw this boy turn into a man that terrified people. That didn't actually realise he was terrifying people because he was just strong as an ox.
Did you enjoy even then the training side of it? Because you hear some boxers that get into it and they just love the training, or some that are just like, that's brutal.
I haven't trained properly since I had 8 amateur fights. I won them all, won the boys clubs, and then I moved out of the family home, and I never really trained again. Really, I had about 12 years I didn't train, and then the last 12 months I've been at Jamie Moore's and Nigel's gym. I've trained more, trained better than I ever have, but I don't know really. I had a lot of issues, I think, in my 20s, a lot of problems, and I don't know really. Time's gone really fast as well. I'd always think, I'll do it for the next one. I don't know really. I should have probably done a little more.
Yeah, do you ever regret not maybe fully committing to it? Do you think you could be in a different place today?
Not really, no. I'm where I am. And when I was a kid in Doncaster, I wouldn't have dreamed of doing the things I've done really. And I think I had more success out of just being myself than I would have as a boxer anyway. I don't think I would have never been a world-class fighter.
I think you would have been, Dave. Yeah. I know what you're saying, because you probably never had the appetite. But I think you would have been, because the ingredients aren't about being the most technically suited fighter. It's about that. And you've got a heart, and you've got a determination that you can't buy, borrow, or pretend to have. And when you talk, and I see your interviews, I see when you talk, I'm thinking, if this kid really had wanted it as much as we wanted it, he'd do it. I was you. I obviously didn't fight like you, but that mentality, again, it's not about the talent. The talent is part of it, but if you've got the mentality, you have actually given a lot of people kittens when they fought you, but you've probably just not wanted it more than everybody else.
I never believed in myself, really. In anything in life, I never believed in it. I don't know. I'm just happy to be here, really. And that's how I always was. I never had any confidence, really, ever. But I don't regret anything, no.
Do you know though the fact that like the British public in particular just absolutely love you? It's
No, yeah. Well, when I boxed in Sheffield, I realised, yeah, because I said to Ed, so we're going to headline Sheffield, and I said, Eddie, I said, look, I think Kel might have done like 7,000 a few times. I think Dalton maybe 4 or 5, and I said, Eddie, we're not going to get 4 or 5 in there. Like, I don't have any friends. My boxing people I do boxing, but I don't actually have any personal friends really. Maybe 1 or 2. I'm just with the kids and at home. You'd not see me when I'm seeing in Doncaster. It's like a rare sighting. Do you know what I mean? So people are like, wow, as if you're still living here or whatever. So I went to Sheffield and tickets started selling. Eddie's like, look, we've done 4, we've done 5, we've done 6. Ended up doing 8.5, and I'm thinking, wow. But I think people resonate with me because look, I'm a very normal person. I'm too normal.
Relatable. You're relatable. But
too normal to be a top champion, because the top champions I know, they're incredibly. I'm sat next to one, so I don't want to talk about them too badly. But like, you have to be selfish in a way, and you have to be one-track minded. And I'm training for fights to set myself up for boxing for like possible world titles. But in Makhmedov, I've got 2 kids on the undercard that I'm training up until 2 days before. I'm training 2 guys that are doing 2 6-rounders. I'm training them all the way through. I'd train in the morning, they would train. I would train again, they would train. I'd be sorting contracts out, sorting the fights out, doing all the pad work. And that's just how I am. I can't stop.
That's exhausting in the build up to your own fight.
Yeah,
of course, but I love it. But you know what I wanted to be when I went to the gym at 16, yeah? I left at 18. And I didn't leave that gym thinking I want to be like junior weight. I didn't want to be Kell Brook. I wanted to be Brendan. That's what I wanted to. If I could have picked anyone in that gym to emulate, it weren't the champion boxer, it was Brendan. And since the age of about 21, I've been training fighters, did amateur boxing for years. I've got 11 pros now. And I didn't want to be junior weight or Kell Brook. I wanted to be Brendan. And that was my dream when I left the gym. I wanted to do something like Brendan.
I was at his fight in Sheffield, and he lost. It's like he won. They were cheering, they stayed to the end. And I'm like, I looked around, I'm thinking, I used to get booed out of places like that. Man just lost. And I'm like, they were cheering, I'm like, he doesn't know, he don't get it. He doesn't get how much of a fan base he's got. The man's just lost, and they were cheering him. Like, if they could carry him out on their shoulders, they would have done. And it was just nice to see. And again, remember, he's not even had a world title fight. He's not even had a British title fight. And he sold more tickets than Junior, Kell Brook, in Sheffield. That doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. One individual sold tickets because of him, not because of the unstacked undercard, because of him. I'm like, it baffles me. It baffles me, but he's a relatable guy that the public think, I've got a mate like him. I've got a neighbour like him. He's like my brother. He's like my old man. They can relate to him.
Yeah. How different or changed do you think AJ will be having teamed up with Team Usyk? Do you think there'll be noticeable differences in him?
It's been there about 5 minutes, so I don't think you can change too much. He's been there about 5 minutes. What they're going to do with him? He's been a great fighter, but he's got a good jab. He has a good 1-2. He's powerful. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. I don't think we'll see anything different. He's not going to be boxing like Alexander Usyk because he's going with his coach. The importance of a good coach for me, there's good coaches and there's bad coaches, of course. But if the kid ain't got it, the kid ain't got it. Like Brendan, he was a great boxing coach, but it was more about this, more here than anything else. For me, I could show anyone how to box, but there's more to it than that. So Anthony Joshua, I don't think, in my opinion, you don't need someone to show him how to box. He can box already. He needs someone to give him that bit of confidence or whatever it is he feels he's lacking. That's what he needs. Whether he gets that from them, I'm not so sure.
I totally agree with you. Yeah. Totally agree. I think whatever he's done with Team Usyk will last around. Maybe probably confuse him more than anything else. And it's a brain job he needs doing on him, a confidence job, a mentality job. It's not about his boxing ability. He has boxing ability. He's former two-time heavyweight champion of the world, so he must be doing something right. So it's that. So you need to be surrounded by people that understand that sport. Now, if Usyk's team are teaching him about the mental capacity, mental strength, mental belief, then great. But you aren't going to see anything fundamentally different when he gets in the ring, be it with Jake Paul or whoever he is, whoever he boxes with. It's not going to make any difference. It probably will be more detrimental if he tries to make physical changes than positive.
Obviously, AJ's with Team Usyk, and we're hearing from camp that he's been put through his work at the moment. They're not letting him rest, not letting him stop training when potentially he might want to. Do you think that's kind of the motivation he needs?
Maybe. It depends on the kind of characters you get. I've been all over the place. I've trained everywhere. If I'm not doing something, I'm not doing it. Like a cow. You know when a cow's sat down? You're not moving it, are you? I'm that cow. So if I'm not doing it, I'm not doing it. Anthony Joshua, I've seen him train. I trained with him for years when I was his sparring partner. He'll train as hard as anybody I've ever seen. I would say Anthony Joshua, Kid Galahad, Scott Quigg, like unbelievable trainers.
When you say trains as hard as anyone, just for people that don't
Right.
really know what goes on in the gym, what sort are you talking, like cardio, weights, sparring?
Usyk was when I was over there in Ukraine with Usyk. He'd be training for hours. I'd spar 4 rounds. Another 2 guys do the last 8. Now, so I've done my 4 rounds. I've got out. I'm expecting him to finish after 12 rounds. I'm still there 2 hours later watching him hit the bag. Watching him hit the pads. And I'm just thinking. I'm thinking like I wanted to finish. I want to go back to my hotel. I'm thinking, but like the work they're putting is unbelievable. Yeah.
Do you think with AJ, it's almost now being with Usyk, the guy who beat him twice, do you think he's no longer in control? Like in other scenarios, he might have been the boss, whereas now it's changed.
Well, maybe AJ has now realised you can't be bus driver, bus conductor, ticket collector and passenger. You've got to say, right, I'm here to become a better fighter. Now tell him what to do. And if now's the time he decides to start listening to his coach, it's too late. It's a little bit too late. Because if the truth is, he decides what he's going to do in camp. I've seen many fighters do that, and it's been that's been the worst thing they could do. Naz started doing that in the gym with Brendan. I'm not running today, Brendan. I'm like, got to this point where Brendan's like, no. I knew Naz was like that with Emmanuel Stewart. I knew Naz was like that towards the back end of his career. That if he wanted to run, he'd run. If he didn't, he didn't. If you're going to go in there with a coach's job is to get the best out of you. David Beckham wouldn't be David Beckham without Sir Alex Ferguson. Sir Alex Ferguson could never play football better than David Beckham, but he knew what he needed to bring out of him. Nassim Hamid wouldn't have been Nassim Hamid without Brendan Ingle. But what happens is when these performers, fighters, athletes get to a certain level, and they've got so many people tapping them on the back, you're great, you're a god, you're X, Y, Z. They think, I've done this myself. I'm all right. I know what's best for me, and it isn't. And that's why Rob McCracken was the best thing that happened to Anthony Joshua. Yeah, they could have had an addition to the squad to tweak him, but when you start getting people in here saying you want to leave him, he's not good for you, he's not going to bring this out of you, your career's you're going to underachieve. Now, Anthony Joshua, I'd say he underachieved, and that's a former 2-weight heavyweight champion of the world. So can you imagine what he would have done if he just listened and thought, I'm going to give you, that's your job. I respect where you're coming from. So if you're saying I've got to run at 3 o'clock and not 6 o'clock in the morning, I'm running at 3 o'clock. If you're saying I've got to do 2 hours in the gym and not 1 hour, I'm listening to you. Once you start to become the passenger, the ticket collector and the bus driver, that's where the problem starts.
A few people that we've interviewed before, Carl Froch and that, have said that AJ, everything went downhill after Rob McCracken. What do you make of that sort of comment?
I'm not sure about that. I don't know. I think the fighter makes the trainer. You need the fighter. The fighter deserves 99.9%. The fighter has to get in there and do it. I know lots of trainers that aren't good trainers that have world champions because the fighter's already been created by some poor fellow amateur coach who's done all the work for 10 years, and then some big name coach who, well anyway, don't matter, who comes along and just takes him on the pads, gets him sparring, gets him fit, and he's a great fighter anyway. So as far as Joshua McCracken goes, I like Rob. He was all right. I was up there for a long time. He knows what he's doing. He was a really good fighter back in the day, good coach. But I don't know. It's hard though, Anthony Joshua. Like he's got 100 million quid and like he's still doing it. If I had 100 million quid, no one would ever see me ever again. Like fair play to him. If I had £1 million, you'd probably never see. You'd probably see me again in about 3 years' time. I'd be like 40 stone. But it's difficult. Like, I find it hard to talk about such things because I am who I am and he is who he is. So it's very difficult for me to talk down on him when he's achieved so much more than me. But yeah, I don't know. Sometimes it's good to get a new coach, I think. I've had loads of coaches. I've done all the Reds in as well.
Well, final word from you, Dave. How is it all going to play out on the weekend with Anthony Joshua and Jake Paul? What is going to happen?
I think it'll knock him spark out in about a minute.
Straight down.
I'll wake
straight
up.
down the
I'll
barrel,
wake up Saturday morning. He's knocked him spark out in a minute, but everyone's all right. That's what I expect, and that's what I hope, and that's what I expect. Yeah.